Okay, so publishing can be the bane of your life.
Okay, so publishing is like the bane of everyone's life.
Publishing is not always difficult and stressful. I've definitely had good experiences, but in general, I would say it is stressful and difficult.
And I think it's fair to say it can be both one of the most rewarding things, but also one of the most challenging aspects of the job.
But it's worth it at the end.
We are at the forefront of forwarding knowledge in the areas that we have expertise on, so we're expected to conduct novel new research.
It's considered the kind of goal for that is to share it with the wider research community. And one of the ways we do that in academia is to publish this work in particular scientific journals.
So the idea is that you try and place your paper in as high a tier journal as you think you possibly can.
So you want to choose a journal that you think your paper will be a good fit for. And that's really easy to work out. You can look on a journal's website and look at their aims and scope or submission guidelines, something like that. Basically, it's telling you what kind of papers they like and what the sort of overall topic is for their journal.
I sort of say that writing an article is a bit like writing a CV in that it's okay to have a template in mind, but you wouldn't just submit the same CV to multiple places, right? You tailor it a bit. And it's the same with publishing. So sometimes you do get desk rejected. That's happened to me before.
It's soul crushing at the time, but it's fine. Most papers get rejected. Some journals have like a 95% rejection rate. It's crazy. So it's very normal for it to be desk rejected.
In which case we have to kind of rework it, send it to a different journal and that sort of thing.
Or they might say, okay, we're going to send this out to reviewers.
And typically that will be sent out for blind peer review. So your identity will be removed from the manuscript, and then 3 or 4 reviewers will be asked to read your paper and comment on it.
Your paper will be sent out to people who are an expert in the field.
And crucially decide whether they feel it's a good fit for the journal and strong enough to be published.
And depending on the kind of number and size of those comments, you're going to get certain outcomes. It might be an outright reject. Unfortunately, that's still very common at this stage. Or it might be a revise and resubmit, or just an accept. But getting just an accept is hard. You're lucky to get a revise and resubmit.
What more than often happens is that those reviewers will say the paper has some merits, but it's got some issues, and in order to get published, certain changes would need to be made. And we then try and engage with those revision requests, revise the paper, send it back in, and fingers crossed, the paper gets accepted.
You might get more revisions at this stage, but what's quite common if they're happy with your changes is that then you get accepted to publication.
This can be quite a long and tiring process. I've just recently published a paper that I think took about 2 years in peer review.
Other times it can take like 6 months to a year. It's really variable. It can take forever, but it is useful to get the feedback, and ultimately when you do eventually have that paper published somewhere, it's going to be really good quality because you've had so much feedback. So it's a long process, but it's worth it.
Are we judged on publications? They are a simple metric, and people like to quantify things, don't they?
I would say traditionally it was the case that you were very heavily judged on your publications and the impact of those publications.
To go up the ladder from lecturer, senior lecturer, media professor, there are expectations around the number of publications you may have accrued over the years, and an expectation that those will have appeared in respectable journals and outlets and so on.
And I think we need to sort of move away from that a little bit towards doing more kind of high quality work, publishing less, but publishing better work, more rigorous science. So I think it's better to publish one amazing paper every year than it is to publish 6, smaller projects. I think as an academic now, I think you're judged much more broadly on how, not only on what you publish, but how you contribute to the culture of the university and of the wider research culture within the UK.
And I think that it is only one aspect of the work we do as academics. Perhaps it's unfortunate that there's been so much focus on it, but I understand why, because it's a straightforward quantitative metric. But I would argue that the value of an academic is much broader than simply how many publications they have and where those publications have been placed.
If purely I focused on research, I don't think I'd be a very satisfied academic. I like to contribute in many different ways. So in my research, the main tools that I use are magnetic resonance imaging. One of the issues with that is that it's expensive to run and to collect data. So it might cost, one participant might cost around, say, £500 to £600. One of the things we do is we apply to research councils for funding.
If you're on a teaching and research contract, then a lot of colleagues will be applying to government research councils to try and get funding from them to do research projects.
Another way is collaborating. So you might collaborate with a charity or with an industry, so a business somewhere, and they may put some money into your research and help fund your project that way.
The university also has small pots of money that you can bid for to do small little projects that will then allow you to apply for a bigger project from an external organisation.
Grants are incredibly competitive, but they are possible. That's typically how people kind of fund their research.
So again, just like trying to get published, it can be frustrating because we might have a drawer full of research grant applications that were not funded, but that is part of academic life, and we have to accept the rejections as well as the things that go well.